All right, welcome to This Week in Birding and Nature Photography. This is Stephen Ramsden, your host, the director of the Charlie Bates Solar Astronomy Project and the Sunlit Earth program here in the United States. Our Solar Astronomy Project is named in memoriam for a fellow veteran, victim of suicide, and we teach solar physics, solar astronomy, solar imaging, anything about the sun in 27 countries around the world. We're a nonprofit registered in the United States and in the state of Georgia. We have an affiliate, Sunlit Earth, which is in Georgia and a few states around Georgia right now, getting bigger every day. And Sunlit Earth studies the wavelengths of light and the sun and how it affects our terrestrial environment, animal life, plant life, and basically the beauty that we see all around us. This program is on every Saturday at 2 p.m. where we invite special guests on to talk about how they see the sun and their experience with the beauty of nature or sunlight in general. We have scientists, biologists, photographers, musicians, CNN meteorologists sometimes, and all kinds of interesting people. So we have people join the meeting as it goes on, and if someone joins, we'll let them in. But the meeting is recorded and can be watched forever afterwards on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. So what's going on in birding this week? Our special guest this week is Richard Clark. He's already with us. And what's going on here in the great state of Georgia is we've had yet another beautiful visit from our favorite American Bittern. And this is the American Bittern sticking its tongue out at us after slurping down a quarter-pound crawdad. And we were able to see this bird up close. It was less than 10 feet away, which is very unusual for this bird. Bitterns, and look how goofy this bird is. Notice the eyes are tilted towards the tip of its snout and pointed down a little bit. And these birds' eyes don't move, so they have to move their skull to look other places. So when it wants to look at you, it has to raise up its beak and look down at you. And it gives it some pretty interesting views. These are migrating birds that come from South America and the Caribbean, and they go north for the summer for breeding grounds for spring and summer, and they come back south in the wintertime. And this bird was at a local creek called the South Peachtree Creek, and it's been there for about 3 months now. And it's really, really unusual in that it keeps coming out right in the open and eating crawdads and toads and fish and anything it can get in its mouth. It even was going after some brown-headed nuthatches yesterday, but it was too goofy to get to them. But it has provided endless enjoyment for many birders. And look at the size of those talons coming off this bird. This bird looks very small when you're close to it, but it can stretch to about 4.5 feet tall with its neck fully out, and its wingspan is over 5 feet. Here it is eating a tadpole, a very large tadpole, I might add. And that's it looking at me with my camera lens because I was only a few feet away. I could have taken 2 steps and grabbed this bird. It was that close. And it has to raise up its head and look down at me because it can't move its eyes. There's another goofy view of the American Bittern. This is my favorite bird and always has been since I've been birding. There's a tadpole. And that's the bird standing up straight, looking for its next victim. There's a fish, another fish, crawdad. It was just an amazing experience watching this bird. It'll grab the crawdad. Well, first it'll stand there and it'll shake back and forth. It'll sway left and right. It'll do the bittern dance. And then it does that to move the weeds and move the sticks that it's standing on in the water. And this makes the crawdads or anything that's in the water, it'll make it move so he can see it. So he does this dance first and then he jabs in and gets these crawdads. And there's another unfortunate crawdad. And once he gets it in his mouth, he shakes it or knocks it against a stump or something and gets the pinchers off. And then he goes for the center of the body and squeezes the guts out of it. You can see the look of despair on this crawdad's face in this image. All is lost. for the crawdad, and it shakes off the claws and the feet. Look at that. That's how close this bird was. I had to back up with my camera just so I could be far enough away to focus on it using my 600mm lens. And once it knocks off the pinchers and the feet, then it always does what's called the bittern flip, where it takes the bird and throws it up in the air, flips it around into the right position for swallowing, and then it's down. One interesting thing in that last picture is notice the eyes. This is the nictitating membrane, which comes from the front of the bird's eyes to the back when it wants it to extend, and it protects the bird's eye from getting scratched by the legs or the feet or sticks or whatever might be in a bird's mouth. And all these herons and wading birds have this nictitating membrane, and that's the crawdad being flipped for the right position for swallowing, because this bird swallowed about 5 of these crawdads this size while I was watching it. And let me tell you, that's an amazing thing to sit around and watch. We've got 2 new people coming. Hold on. There's Rebecca. Rebecca Seeland was with me watching the bittern, and my friend Bonnie Dotson is joining in also. Hey, Becca. And there's Bonnie's door.
I personally really enjoyed all the bittern pictures, and then I felt like I learned so much more. You know, the pictures, it just stimulates so much curiosity, right? All these funny expressions and postures. And then I started seeing some videos that you guys were posting, and that helped like connect some dots for me. Just like learning a lot about this bird and the way it moves is really interesting and fun to watch.
That's what we're trying to do. And this bittern is a really rare bird to see. It's not a rare bird to be there. It's just a rare bird to ever see, because if you noticed on the standing up phase, its camouflage is to sit still and look up, and it looks exactly like a bunch of reef grass or marsh grass. And you Rebecca will tell you, you can stand 20 feet from that bird, it could be standing right in front of you and you would never see it. If it does not move, you are not going to see that bird. And the 2 times I've seen it there, both times it was standing right in front of me for some time before I even could figure out it was there. Their camouflage is unbelievable. The other bird I was going to show you from that same spot while we were watching the bittern was this brown-headed nuthatch, who is a small bird that lives on trees and basically acts like a woodpecker, but it's very tiny, very small bill, and it eats bugs out from underneath bark. And you can see the lichen on this tree branch. There's a close-up of its head. And notice the eyebrows of the bird also change color on top and bottom, along with the stripe from the brown to the white feathers. I thought that was really incredible, and only could be seen if you were close enough to this bird. It makes it sound like a squeaky toy. And when you see them, they're always on the tree doing this, looking out. That's the cavity that the bird was excavating. And they'll just sit there all day and bust it on that cavity, and you'll see sawdust being expelled in every direction. And the bird makes a sound just like a dog's squeaky toy. So if you hear what sounds like a dog playing with a squeaky toy in the woods, it's probably the brown-headed nuthatch, which is very popular in Georgia and breeding everywhere right now. And if you walk around anywhere in a park or outside for more than a half hour, you're going to run into a flying squeaky toy. And these
shots are super sharp, Stephen.
Thank you so much. And I did cheat a little bit with software, but you know,
yeah, it's got to be there in the first place.
It's got to be there in the first place. That's true. And people will compliment me a lot on them. You know, I can press buttons with the best of them. And if there's buttons to be pressed on electric gizmos and keyboards, then buddy, I can press them. So I'd like to take all the credit, but really the Canon engineers get this credit, and the Adobe engineers. And I'm just glad that we could share it with everybody. Rebecca and her husband, Dwayne, were standing there with me, and Sarah Draper, and we were all just marveling over how beautiful these little birds were and how close they were, man. You could, I mean, the bird flew over our heads a couple times leaving, and, you know, it's just a very enjoyable day, especially when you can share it with friends, which is what we aim to do here at Sunlit Earth. And Joe Sexton has joined us. He may have a little bit to talk about with his iNaturalist. And we have Richard Ozer with us, who's in the UK, I think.
Nah.
No, sorry. Hey, Richard. I,
How you doing?
I'm good, man. He's coming over
Oh,
from our astronomy
Oakland,
side.
Oakland, California. I'm crossing over today.
All right, very good. My bad. I've got people in 27 countries, and I had you pegged for a UK person because they're really weird over there. They're very private, and they don't like to share their videos usually.
Well, yeah, I'm in desperate need of a haircut. So
Oh yeah.
fine.
Well, hey, you ain't. Why am I wearing a hat, man? You know, I've got this bald spot here. I'm trying to get covered up. And my mother-in-law called me yesterday and said, you know, you should get a tattoo on the bald spot of a guy pushing a lawnmower because that shit ain't gonna ever grow. She goes, you're gonna have that spot, a flesh-colored yarmulke on your head forever. And a guy mowing a lawn would be a great shot. Joe, did you have anything to talk to us about this week? Or are you joining in just to listen in?
Yeah, I'm just here to listen and learn.
Awesome. Becca, is your husband over there? Is he in the doghouse?
Well, not at the exact moment, but he's busy working on all his batteries. But you know,
Oh, well, that's great. He's doing something. We had this conversation already.
yeah, the overall project isn't moving along real fast. So, you know.
Did the yelling work? Like I suggested?
I didn't try any yelling. I don't think it'll work, and I just need to do some. I just don't want to start yelling.
Awesome. Well, when you get desperate, it really works with me, and I need to be yelled at. So when Natalie, and I deserve it, every minute of it. She's up there listening to me now, and she's about to drop a big pile of text folders on me. So we'll just move on. Hey, Natalie. Hey, baby. You know I love you. So at the Nature Preserve, for anybody local, which really there isn't anybody local, so we'll just move on. The Nature Preserve is awesome and doing it right now. There's hundreds of spotted salamander eggs in at least a dozen different egg masses that I looked at yesterday. There's thousands and thousands of frog eggs from leopard frogs to green tree frogs. And within a month, we should have a pool just completely full of amphibians to look at. And tomorrow I'll be out there around 10 o'clock. We're going to award a special digital microscope to a young man who's been doing some fantastic work in the neighborhood over there, picking up garbage on his own. And his parents have been talking about it. So we are going to find this kid and say, yay, and let him know that when you do cool stuff, you get rewarded. So we'll have some pics of that too. I'm going to take him down and get some frog eggs and get some stuff, maybe a booger or something, and look at it under the microscope. So that'll be cool. Did anyone want to add anything before we move on to our special guest, Richard Clark? I miss our Alexandra this week. I don't know where she is, but you know, it's just not the same without the UK and the British accent popping in every now and then. But maybe we'll get Alexandra back next week. So this week's guest, Richard Clark, we met on Facebook. We've never actually met, but he's a professional photographer, and I'll let him fill you in on his career and what he's done. But I think we have spread our virus to him of a little more birding than he was doing before. And I think he's starting to appreciate it a little more and maybe taking more time and getting some relaxation out of it. He dabbled in it at first, and I think that being involved in our group has shown him how really good he is at it, and maybe branched him off into that. And I say mission accomplished whenever that occurs, because we want people to see the beauty of sunlight that's around them all the time. And speaking of sunlight, today is a special day on the sun, or on the earth. It's called the Spring Equinox. This morning at 5:37 a.m., the planet Earth's tilt reached the midpoint that it reaches when it goes around the sun. You have solstices when the sun is as low as it gets in the sky. That's the winter solstice for your hemisphere. When the sun is as high as it gets in the sky, that's the summer solstice, and that's June 21st and December 21st. Then you have equinoxes, which are the two midpoints, and those are the vernal equinox and the autumnal equinox. And right now we are experiencing the autumnal, or I think vernal, one of them, the spring equinox. And today is very special because in the northern hemisphere, this is the only day that the sun actually rises exactly due east and sets exactly due west. And it goes up to the midpoint in the sky. The Earth right now, the rotational axis of the Earth is actually level with the rotational axis of the entire solar system. plane of the ecliptic. Anyway, I won't bore you to death with all that. But today the daytime is 12 hours and the nighttime is 12 hours. So the nights will be getting longer, which is bad for me living next door to a horrible bar that keeps me up every night. But good for romantics who like to go out at night and have dinners with their wives and husbands, like Rebecca and Dwayne, constant romantics. Richard, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm a little embarrassed, I guess, because I went to a new barber to get a haircut for the show, and man, I'll just show you. I don't know exactly what it was, but this guy was kind of out there a lot. So I thought he cut it kind of short, especially on the sides. So, you know, I don't know. You know, his scissors kept cutting like that.
Live long and prosper. And infinite diversity and infinite combinations, my friend.
There you go. There you go. But I can't hear with these, so I'm gonna have to take those off. But I made a special digital background for it just for you, Stephen.
Yeah, the Klingon D5 cruiser, I believe, and the Constitution class Enterprise, and a crow. And
so that was for you. That was all.
You're the man, and you know how to sweet talk me. Let me tell you. What do you need? You can have it. So we'll go ahead and ask. What is your favorite Star Trek series and character?
You know, I've watched several. Original is always to go back to
the original series,
the William Shatner series.
Right. So you like?
I can tell you the one I don't like is the Deep Space Nine, I believe. That one was a little too cartoonish, maybe. But
well, you know the episode where they teach the Vulcans how to play baseball is generally regarded as the worst Star Trek episode ever aired on DS9. But I will tell you this: after watching it at least 20 times all the way through, it grows on you. And there's one thing about DS9 is that the punk rock artist Iggy Pop makes an appearance in DS9, which is super cool. And there's lots of cool characters. Now, Rebecca has got her bird nest on her head here to show us again. I don't know if you can see that or not. But anyway, yeah, that's cool. So you're an original series fan, and you're about my age, so you probably watched it when it actually was original, like I did as a little kid. So so that's good. So I will go with Captain Kirk then as your man.
Yeah, I guess Scotty, maybe Scotty.
Yeah, Scotty was missing a finger on his right hand from his experience in D-Day. Scotty was actually Canadian. He was not Scottish. And he fought on the beaches of Normandy on D-Day with the Canadians and had his finger shot off and was shot in 3 other places in his body and survived, obviously. And if you notice in the original series, next time you watch it, they never show his right hand, ever. It's always behind his back. He was very self-conscious of the fact that he was missing his middle finger from fighting in Normandy. So I'll shut up now about Star Trek. And what is going on in the world of Richard Clark's birding, man? What is happening? Tell us about everything you got.
Well, one thing I wanted to really speak about was that I guess would consider myself the accidental birder. I'm not necessarily started out to become someone that photographed birds. And, you know, on vacation, of course, I would always take a camera and, you know, whatever seabirds I would see, I would photograph that just because they were something different than we have in North Georgia. But the wife she wanted to have her bird feeders close so she could see birds. So we had them close to the house, to our deck. We have some, I guess, black bears that have a route that they come through every now and then. They would bend over the feeders. We would replace the shepherd's hooks, wait a few months, watch it happen again. So we moved all of our feeders. We have a covered deck. So we moved all our feeders up around the eaves of the deck. So the birds are like really close now, like within 10 feet close or less. So I'm like, well, I've already got the long lenses. Let's just play with them a little bit. And I guess maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I started photographing some of the birds. We had put some shepherd's hooks actually on the outside part of the deck and let the birds just, light on the hooks and feeders hanging off of it. So I started photographing that. And then, I started going, well, I could get some decent looking shots. So I built I won't say built, but I put together a small birding studio out on the area where you go out and then down the steps. So I was going to show you guys some of that if I can share my screen. I can't hear you.
Let me make you a co-host real quick. And what I got out of that was you have black bears in your yard.
Well, we have something to travel through.
I have driven hundreds of miles to see a black bear.
Well, we've got, we live about 200 yards from the Chattahoochee National Forest. In fact, the road that we live on is a Forest Service road that our community paved, and it's still a Forest Service road. So
yeah, and so your wife thinks that's a problem that you have black bears? Because I'm telling you, you could charge $20 a pop, and every one of us would come photograph.
Well, the problem is that they only come out at night. You rarely see them in the daytime around.
Right.
They just come out and forage and to whatever's open they'll get into. But that's not often. But anyway, we have the feeders closed, and I've started taking some photos of them. So I was going to show you kind of my little birding studio, and then I'll show you some pictures I made from it.
Now, Richard, you're a professional photographer by trade, right?
I do, yes. And this actually starts my 40th year in this school and yearbook business. I've been doing photographing kids forever and a day. I used to photograph weddings. I've done advertising photography. I've managed labs. I've done it all facets of photography.
When you say managed labs, do you mean developing labs? Processing and developing.
And custom labs, yeah.
We got, before you share your bird screen, I did get online and look up some of your work. And I wanted to share how awesome some of your yearbook photos were, if that's all right.
Okay, if you can find some.
Yeah, this one I found right off the bat. And then we found this one also, which was one of your jobs.
Yep.
And then, of course, here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my favorite is, anyway, sorry. I'm sure you've heard every yearbook joke there is.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I cherish mine. I hated taking it, but boy, I tell you, 40 years later, I really cherish the fact that I have photos from those days. And the guy did the best he could do with what he had to work with.
Oh, I've got some friends that I went to high school with and actually elementary with, started putting some of our class photos up over the years. Mm-hmm. And almost in every photo, I found out my mouth is open. So.
Yeah. And I realized that my left eye is smaller than my right eye one time. And I used my yearbook photos to see if that was something that happened to me on a submarine or if that was just the way I was born. And that's that way in every photograph from the first grade on. And I never even noticed it until I was a full-grown adult. So.
Something happened to you on a submarine.
Well, we say what happens on the sub stays on the sub, Richard.
You're a submariner?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, and I'm retired Navy ET nuke. Yeah.
My son is active Navy, a MM nuke.
Yeah, very good.
And he's teaching at the nuclear school in Charleston.
Right. I'm so old that I went to the nuclear school in Orlando.
Okay.
Yeah, I was an ET nuke, and I was on the Ohio, the USS Ohio. So
he's at Charleston now. He was on the newest fast attack sub on the build out. He's a planker on the South Dakota.
Wow, that's prestigious position, and we could talk about that forever too. But that's how I got out of Southwest Atlanta and got myself educated and became successful. So I can guarantee your kid's on his way to a good life. That's how Jimmy Carter started too. Don't forget. All right.
You want me to share the screen and start?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
I
talk you to death. I'm sorry.
All right, can you see that?
No.
Okay, let me try one more thing. I think what I have to do, let me get this and share screen. There we go, share. And
that's good.
Okay, so this is basically my birding studio. I'm gonna have to make that size that just a little different. Bear with me 1 second. I gotta get where I can get my second screen going. So this is basically my viewpoint for taking the photos. I put together just some small perches, just some limbs I found or some firewood. Got a couple light stands and put together some cut wood. bored a few holes in some of the cut wood, and I'll drop some seed down in there, and that's how I get the birds to light. So I'll just show you a couple different views of the studio. I've got some horizontal perches, vertical perches, double perches. I change these out as I get bored with them. These are not the originals. If you can see that our back deck, we live on a lake, which makes a very good background along with pine trees in a very far distance.
Wow.
So just about every shot that I take along these perch lines are going to have some pretty strong bokeh. So
yeah, the background is absolutely beautiful, man. Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, we love where we live. We're probably from the water line. That's our property goes probably from the deck to the water line is probably not 50 yards, 30, 40 yards. The trees are probably back about 25, 30 yards. So they, with a long lens, they blur out, and you get pretty phenomenal, smooth, buttery bokeh.
That would not be the background of my patio bird studio, let me tell you.
Is that right? So that's kind of the scene of the studio. This is my birding setup.
Right.
So I just use a Canon 6D Mark II.
Right. Full frame.
I use Canon 580 flash, and then this is a JJC flash extender. $10 on eBay. I found. I bought 3 of them so I'd have extras. Mm-hmm. So, and then
now, has that got just a reflective inner surface that bounces the flash and aims it directionally?
It actually, and I'll show you in a moment. I've got a picture of me holding it from the straight on view. It's a Fresno lens that concentrates the light. Mm-hmm. Literally, with that flash, I can fill in the shadows of the birds that are in the water to some degree. It gives you about 3 more stops of light out of your normal flash, but you have to have over a 300 millimeter lens or longer, or because it's a very concentrated beam of light. If you notice, like on here, I zoomed out with my lens to show this area, and you can really tell the flash actually drops off pretty strong at the bottom because it's too wide a view for the flashes. This is basically my little perch for me to sit in to photograph the birds. I use an elevated chair. I keep a table to lean on where I'm leaning back and forth. Couple, things to put my feet on to keep them up so that I'm more on a eye-to-eye level with the birds. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm not always shooting up at them. The one thing that I have to use flash for is in the afternoons. We get a lot of the sunsets to the front of the house. We're in the back. Sunsets almost straight across in front of us. So I get a very heavy backlit area if I don't have any kind of flash on it. And I also have I planted this tree, 25 years ago, I guess now, or 20 years ago. It's a Japanese maple tree, right, which goes through all kinds of color variations from when the leaves are coming out to all the way when the leaves turn and fall off. It makes a really nice background.
Is that the one that turns bright red in the fall?
It'll end up before the leaves fall off, it has a crimson view to it. Yeah. It has a nice crimson. So you get a lot of color out of the background. But as you can see, without any flash, I've got nothing but shadows here. Mm-hmm. So that's why I do that. Actually, I don't know if you can tell, but this is an eave up top, and we just have a line of bird feeders that go down our deck. We have the messiest steps of anybody ever. We keep a blower and we keep a pressure. We at least 2 or 3 times through the summer and winter, we're blowing. We're blowing every day, and then we'll end up pressure washing. So put that heavy duty, deck paint that doesn't wear off.
Yeah.
So this is another, the back view of our house. This you can kind of see from the deck landing where I've got the perches, cross pool down to the yard, and that's how far the lake is. And you can kind of see the distance of the trees. So when you're close focused on the perches, everything back here just goes way out of focus. Wow. So it really isolates the subject well on the perches. And then I do have a picture of me with that Fresno Lens to show you that has the concentrated for the flash, which is huge. This is a selfie I made of myself in that. So
it's a good day to die, Richard.
It's a good day to die. But if you can see the lens up here, you see that it's a piece of plastic, and you can buy them at most science stores. I think there's a American Scientific store that you can buy these things in bulk.
A Fresno Lens is a series of concentric circles, and it was designed for use in lighthouses. That was how it originally was used or designed by an astrophysicist in France, and that's the light they used in lighthouses to warn Navy ships of rocks back in the 17 and 1800s.
And by concentrating it with those circles, that pushes the beam out further.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
So you basically got a lighthouse beam on top of your camera.
Yeah. And I'll tell you one thing that I also use. If you notice around my neck there, I hook my flash up to a external power pack. I don't know. Can you see that? It's just a little power pack that the flash hooks, and it keeps. I can almost shoot motorized sequence with this power pack because I'm not using a lot of power from the flash because it's already concentrated.
Right.
And it just makes you be able to get several poses of when the birds are on the perches. They won't stay there long because they jump over to the feeders. But you can get more than one or two shots off with the power pack because it recharges the flash so quickly.
Wow.
So, and that was, most of the equipment that I buy, I guess I've just been doing this so long that I found that most people that have equipment on eBay, most of it that I've ever run into is used very, very minor. They usually buy it, it sits somewhere, then they thought, I'm not using it, so I'm going to sell it. So I buy a lot of equipment used. I venture to say there's not much I'm ever going to buy new again because there's too many people bought new and decided they didn't use it. As long as I can kind of look at it and tell that it's in good shape, it's usually quite a bargain to get on eBay. So
that's the main source that we use to buy camera bodies and lenses that we sponsor people with is eBay. And you're right. Sometimes you'll run across a scam artist, but most of the time it's barely used stuff that they're selling for cheap.
Right. And it's kind of like buying a good used car versus a new car from a dealership. Why pay retail?
Right.
So I was going to go next to a folder, and I just put a lot of samples of some of the birds I photographed over the years, and just let y'all look at them and stop me when you want to talk about one, and I'll tell you what I can remember about it.
Okay.
All right. So, when we go on vacation, I always carry a camera. This is probably 3 years ago, Daytona Beach. One thing I do like to do is like when we staying on the beach is like I like to get a higher level floor if I can, somewhere between 15 and 24, because one thing I have found that most of the birds, that's about somewhere that the height, you're either going to be a little above them, sometimes even with them, or a little below them. And that's a great vantage point to photograph birds from. This was with a Canon 100 to 400 Mark II. I couldn't tell you the zoom without looking at the metadata.
That's a brown pelican?
That's the brown pelican. And he's just floating by. When we went to Daytona, I photographed a lot of pelicans. Yep. I've got a lifetime supply of pelican photographs. So, but I just think it's a different perspective than most people see the pelicans from.
It is.
So there, you may see another pelican or two here and through. These are some that I start off my back deck. I'm a big fan of silhouettes. And part of that is when everything around your subject is going to be a lot brighter and you don't want to use your flash, you're going to get a silhouette.
Right.
So, you know, of course I tweak, just like every photographer, you tweak it a little bit to make it look well. I'm not necessarily trying to always capture the detail of the bird as much as I am convey a message on there. You know, it's kind of like with a portrait of someone, you want to tell a story. Right. And, you know, sometimes I'll put little quotes with it. I was like, you know, this one was, no one comes to this bar anymore. So
yeah, we had Ray Hennessy on a couple weeks ago, and he's a big fan of the silhouette also. So
it's very interesting, especially with the feathers. The feathers, you get a lot of detail in the silhouette. Yeah. This is one of the feeders. I make some, and I'll show you a couple samples. I make some what I call e-cards for friends, like if they have an anniversary. You know, this one I've put text in it, and I don't know if it's in here or not, but it would say happy anniversary, and I would post that on our Facebook page. So, yeah, I try to keep it, you know, very much a hobby and fun. That's a more, you know,
wow, that's a great photo.
Flock. This is just Daytona Beach, but you're close enough to them that they stay sharp, but it still tells the story of where they're at flying up the beach.
You know, you could feel the redneck in that shot, Richard.
Oh yeah, can't you though?
That is fantastic. You know, I guess that's such a simple thing. I hadn't really thought of it before, but that's a great idea, getting above the pelicans.
Mm-hmm. And that, you know, at first it was luck. Now I kind of plan it that way. Yeah. Also, and I got a few. I mix these up. There's some, you know, all over. This is Huguenot Park, north of Jacksonville. It's on the very south end of Amelia Island. Millions and millions of different kinds of terns, gulls, laughing gulls, all kinds of things. Cades Cove.
There it is.
Yeah.
Wild turkey.
Yeah, wild turkey. A tame crow. This crow wanted to be fed, and so he followed us in the car. And never throw out your snacks to the crows, because they definitely.
Oh yeah, your hand, man. If you hold.
Yeah, just about. This is more brown pelicans, just getting them in sequence flying, and you know how one's, you know, they kind of fly alternating almost, I guess, with the wind currents.
Yeah, yeah. So I love how the horizon just bends away out there, just blurs away.
It's pure bokeh.
It looks like the bands on the planet Saturn that I've taken before. It looks like the cloud bands of methane on the planet Saturn.
I love shooting with a long lens. It just makes a lot. It compresses all the subject, and it also takes that horizon just about out to nothing, and it just kind of gives a emptiness that really makes you draw to the subject. Wow. This is one of my first shots. Speaking about the sun comes up directly east. This is the sun literally coming up directly east on our deck landing, and that is, you know, truly the sun behind that bird. And I use the field flash to catch the detail. This is some of my first birding work. I'm going to just go through some of these and let y'all just look. And hummingbirds, we keep some hummingbird feeders close, but tell me if you want me to stop, but I'm just going to buzz through some different images. And the close-up ones of the small birds are basically going to be from our deck. There's going to be a few seabirds here and there. Dark-eyed junco right off of a limb, right off our deck. Wild turkey up in Cades Cove. Couple bugs. Do some macro photography of that was with a 180 millimeter Canon L lens. I use an off-camera flash bracket so I can bring the light from the left side, so it's not just straight on light. Gives a little bit more modeling on the subject.
Hey Richard, would you do me a favor? Your video is about 4 seconds delayed from your audio. Will you stop sharing and then reshare your screen?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, just stop share. It's because of your internet speed. It ain't no big deal. If you'll stop and then reshare the same thing and keep going, it'll get synced back up.
All right. How do I, let's see.
Oh, stop share is should be on the top of your screen in the center. Should be a red button that says stop share. Or I can stop your sharing. Hold on. Okay, I just stopped you. Now just go back and share that same screen again.
Okay. Do you see a butterfly?
Hang on. I'll tell you when there it is. Okay.
Okay. So anyway, this is a long macro lens with a flash to the left of the subject. So the light's coming in from one side gives a little bit more dimensional effect. It's just like photographing a portrait. You do that, it gives a little more modeling, not necessarily to their face, but I guess to their head and body in an animal or a bug.
Very, very dramatic.
The hummingbird.
Yeah.
That's just a close up of a hummingbird. The flash, if you notice in the hummingbird's eyes, it kind of lights up the eyes a little bit.
Yeah.
Birds don't tend to get red eye, so the flash is pretty easy with them. This is where we live. This is a scene of our lake. We get all kinds of ducks, geese, wood ducks. I don't know all the varieties of ducks. That'll be my next thing is to go after the ducks. I don't know if you've ever been up to Cleveland, Georgia, but this is a mountain. It's called Yonah Mountain. It's kind of a pretty close in mountain to us, about 3 miles from us. So I catch a lot of sunrises on it. Like I said, these are kind of random. From our deck, chipping sparrow. I call this one the Sparrow King because I made it back close to when the Lion King or the Lion
King, yeah.
Tiger King came out on Netflix. The Tiger King.
Tiger King.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of appropriate with that. More macro, 180 millimeter with flash. I always try to use the flash for the macro. One other thing a flash will do for you, it'll sharpen your image up and it keeps a flittering bird from blurring as much if you have to use the slow shutter speed.
Really?
Just a macro.
That's a beautiful photograph. Those leaves. Go back to the leaves, man. That was beautiful.
That's just our front yard. That's some kind of green plant we've got in the front yard. So.
Yeah, that's sunlight right there, buddy. Well, I know it's flash, but that's sunlit earth.
Actually, that is no flash. There is no flash on that one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Speaking of sunlight reflecting and refracting.
Yes, I do speak of it.
This guy was in a pine tree off our back deck.
Yeah.
I lit it up with a little bit of flash, and then when I processed it up, the colors just popped.
Yeah, that really shows how the angle of incidence changes the color of that bird's feathers. The same feather turned 10 degrees one way or the other will change color completely.
Right.
And that's diffraction mostly.
Diffraction. Red-breasted grosbeak.
Yeah.
He's on the top of one of the feeders, and this is done. The flash basically stops the wings in motion, which I think is kind of cool effect if you can pull it off every now and then.
Yeah.
When the shutter's slow. Just a goldfinch. I did a little tweaking on the background just to give it a little brightness on the edges, give the appearance of a sunbeam. Are we synced now, or am I going to?
We're closer, but it's a couple seconds.
All right. Downy woodpecker, male.
All right.
These are all these limbs are just sticks that I put up on our deck.
I'm going to try that. Maybe make a bird studio at the nature preserve.
It doesn't, it just gets some random limbs and put up. But what I would say is get some that you can drop a few seeds in if you want to let people come. You got to be able to draw the birds to you.
Right. You know, in Ecuador, the times I've been there birding, they have these logs that they hollow out like canoes that might be 6 feet wide, and they put them on top of a couple of posts. And when you look at it as a photographer, all you see is the side of a log. But
Right.
they'll hollow the inside out and put bananas and fruit all across the inside of it, and that's how they get all the birds to come to the log for the people when they're giving them tours.
And you know, I do the similar thing with birdseed. I mean, that's what I do with that. We have hummingbird feeders we keep close. This is, you know, using a flash, stopping the wing motion.
Gorget, beautiful.
I'm just going to go through a few more pictures. You know, I'll try not to comment on everyone because I've got a lot of them.
You take all the time in the world, Richard. This is a fascinating presentation.
Some of these birds, to me, just have a great personality, and they're comical, but I think sometimes it's fun just to see if you can, I don't know, get a human characteristic kind of in their expression. Not that they smile, but, you know, they have an inquisitive look to them.
They call that amorphosizing, I believe.
Is that right?
Yeah, where you assign a human trait to an animal because of the way it looks or its actions or whatever.
Sometimes I'll put quotes with that. This one here I turned into a birthday card. The tufted titmouse with its mouth open. So I put a couple of musical notes, and then I put a happy birthday to you, like the birds singing happy birthday to whoever I send that to.
Cool.
This one, you know, this was more on a religious thing. I put a hymn that talking about chains being broken and flying away. So I thought, well, that just kind of fit that picture. So.
Right.
All right, this is very close to where we live up in the mountains. It's called Hogpen Gap. So, you know, this was in May. We had some beautiful scenery. I've played with this a little bit. So, you know, it's not exactly, I wasn't trying to go for just excellent detail at the bottom, but it just convey kind of a feeling in the photo. We also have some furry birds.
Yeah.
These guys have become, you know, they come up and they eat their fair share of feed. And we've tried to run them off, but eventually, you know, I just kind of decided everything's got to eat. So just let them have their share too.
Yeah, that's what we do at the preserve too. We've got a host of fat and happy squirrels.
Sometimes this is what I call an accidental gem, where the shutter speed was really too low, but the flash stopped the action because the birds move fast when they're lighting. So this, you know, I thought this one turned out fairly well. Blue jay. I'm just going to go through them slow here. Stop me if you want.
Now, Richard, let me ask you on that. Since you've got more time as a professional photographer than I think anybody I've ever met, do you think it's because the duration of the flash is so short that it just brightens one portion of the movement of the wings, even though maybe the exposure is longer than the flash duration, but the rest of the exposure is just darker?
It is. I mean, that has a lot to do with it because the camera is pretty much going to expose for a middle gray tone. So once that flash hits the middle gray in your sensor, you know, when it reads it, it cuts it off. So it could be lighter or darker, but usually the background is going to be at the distance that I'm photographing, 7 to 8 feet. The flash is going to overpower the background for the most part. So I have to balance it a little bit, but it is a very, very, very short duration when I'm using that flash extender.
Right.
So, and I'm using it in a high speed sync mode.
Right.
So I can shoot flash at, 1/1000th at that distance with that.
Oh, you can change the duration of the flash?
Well, the duration is kind of set up by the amount of power the flash is putting out. So I'm really putting out a very small amount of power because I'm using that extender, which magnifies the flash, so it uses less power. So
yeah, that's an interesting subject. I'm gonna have to think some more about that.
This is like I said, these are random. These are some you probably can tell me better than I can remember.
These are oyster catchers.
Black
skimmers.
Skimmers, yes. Okay. This was down in Pensacola. They were just playing and dancing around.
Yeah.
That's with a 100 to 400 Canon lens. Blue jay. Is it showing a blue jay?
It just showed it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to slow down so I don't speak out of cue with the picture.
We see an osprey now.
Okay. We went last summer to Destin, and the happenstance, the place that we rented was up the road from a state park, and there were about 4 osprey that continually circled. They would go up and down the beach, but they would come right over the condo that we rented. So, I had a 150 to 600 lens, and I just kept one lens out there on the monopod, and as they flew by, I would shoot as much as I could. There's no flash on these, and I did tweak this background, so it does, it looks better than it really did when I photographed it. I'll say that.
This is a great one. Chickadee.
Yeah, I call this my ballerina picture.
Yeah, very nice. I love it when they do that for you.
Yes, this is actually on our deck too.
Yeah, awesome.
He perched there over and over. That is actually shot with a 500 millimeter Sigma f4.5 with flash, and just I use an extension tube on the telephoto lens, so it will shorten the minimum focus distance.
Right.
And that almost makes like a super macro out of it.
Yeah.
The same thing when I dropped a different background in on that one. Sometimes I'm not necessarily going for just straight up what was there. This one, I ended up making a birthday card out of that one. It says, "Rise up, it's your birthday." So, speaking of your brown-headed nuthatch.
There you go. Cool. Got a sunflower seed.
Mm-hmm.
Ruby-throated hummingbird.
Yeah. Another bug. These guys are very interesting to watch.
They are. That's one of the most ferocious predators on Earth right there.
Yeah, you can fly backwards and forwards in every direction, right?
Yeah.
Silhouettes. This is the elusive turbo unicorn hummingbird. This is shot with a flash, but I accidentally lowered the shutter speed way too low, and I thought, well, it turned out interesting. So tell me blackbirds and grackles are not pretty birds.
We're waiting on that one still. There it is. Okay. Yeah.
One of the main things when I'm photographing birds, it's just like photographing people. If the eye's not sharp, the rest of the picture's not going to be interesting.
Right. Agreed.
So I focus on the eye. I use a multi-point, but I put it on the top portion of the, where you can change it to, so from center up one level.
Yeah.
I put it up so that I come near getting the bird's eyes in focus. That's where I want the point of focus to mainly be.
That's how I do it too, man. Look at that.
You got a Hummer?
Yeah, we do, with a perfectly focused catch light.
Now, a lot of times if I get sunlight, I'll also use the flash. Like this, the rim of the Mockingbird there is really what I would call the main light side, and then fill it with just a little bit of flash so that you don't get such a dark shadow, so you still get detail. If you look in the eye, you can see where the sunlight is on the top part of the eye, and the flash I used to fill, you see that little bitty center dot? That's the flash.
Neat. That's a gray catbird.
Yeah, it's a great catbird. We had a couple of them and they flew off, and I'm hoping they come back. This is a black skimmer just about to make a dive on some kind of little fish. It's in Pensacola. This was in Pensacola, actually Navarre Beach, at the bridge at Navarre Beach, just south of Pensacola. You bet with the bird.
Right in front of the sun.
Yep. And back to the birding studio. Titmouse. I have I've got a lot of the same birds. I just have them in different looking pictures, I guess. That's the catbird silhouette coming up with spreading its wings or its tail feathers. Hummingbird. Are we still together?
Yes.
So stop action, flash with a hummingbird. Cardinal. Cracking seed.
Yeah.
Backlit and rim lit of this woodpecker. I love to use a lot of rim light on the edges.
Yeah, it really
Not a
defines the
silhouette,
subject.
but
It looks good.
the flash fills this in. Had I not used the flash, this would be a total silhouette of the bird, which
And that's a hairy woodpecker, if you didn't know that.
because of the length of the bill, you can tell the difference.
Yeah, and that's a much more rare bird than a downy woodpecker.
Okay. I've got several of these. Without having a size reference, it's hard to know. This guy's a fun little guy who visits us quite often.
Carolina wren.
Yeah. He's got a lot of personality.
They like to yell at you.
Yes. This is just more of the skimmers. Like I said, I didn't put these in any sequence. I just, wherever they fell in the folder. They're doing a little sky dancing there. This is from Destin, Seagull.
Very nice.
Another one of the ospreys, Destin. This one literally flew, the one that's got the partial wing. He was really up on close to us compared to the others.
Very nice.
Back to the birding studio. Got a cardinal starting to molt his feathers a little bit.
Right.
We call this guy Spike. He had a really tall crest raised up. This is with a 500 lens. It doesn't have a round bokeh. It has kind of a octagonal type bokeh. You can tell what lens I'm using just almost by the bokeh.
So what's a bokeh?
So bokeh is basically what photographers call the out of portion focus of the picture. So bokeh and out of focus background are basically one and the same thing. But the lens, you can see these octagons are highlights that the lens has spread, and they kind of reflect on the inside of the shutter or the aperture of the lens. So the way the aperture works in this lens, on this lens, it's not necessarily a round aperture. It's got this hexagonal kind of setup the way it's manufactured.
Yeah.
Just because the way it spreads the highlights.
Yeah, that's the manner in which the lens treats out of focus light, and it's based on the shape of the lens. And some lenses are shaped different than others, just like Richard said.
More of our Carolina wren. He's a character.
Hey, Alexandra, did we mess up something with daylight savings time or something in the U.S., or you just couldn't make it?
Oh, I see. Oh, it's not the same time.
I knew that there's something was wrong since you didn't check in with your English accent. Yeah, it's now 3 p.m. in the United States on the East Coast.
Oh, okay.
But I am so glad that you came anyway, and Richard's still in the middle of his presentation, so hopefully you'll be able to stay with us for a few minutes and talk to us.
Okay, sorry.
I knew something was going on with that.
Start over.
Yeah, start over. No, keep going.
Brownhead nuthatch. Of course, I play with the background on this, but I will say this background, this is the Japanese cherry maple tree that I was showing you when I showed you the birding studio.
Right.
So it gives great color. This is our backyard. We have some butterfly bushes. It's not a bird, but it's got wings.
It's sunlight though, and that's what we talk about.
Sunlight. There you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
it's not a birding group; it's a sunlight group.
Right. More of a dragonfly. This is called a four
Halloween pendant or
pendant. Four pendant. Yes.
Yeah, four pendant.
One of the things that I do like about the birding studio, I'm covered. I don't get rained on, even when the birds do. They still come to eat, and they get wet, and they take on a whole different personality when they're wet.
They do.
I usually post a bird picture a day, so if it's a rainy day, I try to find a rainy bird picture to post. This is, of course, a Carolina chickadee. This one I just liked. It's out of focus, but it's kind of like let the sun shine on me kind of feel.
Yep.
Just kind of that let the sun hit you in the face kind of feel.
And is that a female? What is that? Female summer tanager?
I think so. I thought it was a finch, but I may be wrong.
Yeah.
He's a little out of, he's out of focus, but he was shaking the head. So I thought, well.
Yeah, that's a weird looking bird. Maybe a goldfinch, just colored weird.
Okay. It could be. More pelicans. I'm going to buzz through a few more. I always like this shot. It kind of reminds me of the flying monkeys in The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, that's a wonderful background. Is that sand and water?
It is sand. It's sand. It's Daytona Beach is what that is. Wow. And we were on like the 22nd floor.
I didn't recognize it because there was no trash and no people.
We were actually, I guess this would be Upper Daytona and right at the edge of Ormond Beach. I forgot the name of the condo we stayed. Right. So this bird, I didn't know what this was when I first photographed them. But this is a pine siskin, and I definitely know what they are now because we got a ton of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's our wren.
Okay.
Go ahead. You want me to go back?
Have you had any sick pine siskins up there yet?
You know what we did? We had one I found dead.
Yeah.
We cleaned all our feeders, put them up for a little bit, put them back out, and so far so good. I mean,
we're having a big problem with that here in the city right now. We had to take the feeders down at the nature preserve for almost a month.
It's salmonella, isn't it?
Yeah, salmonellosis, and it's the same food poisoning that humans get, and it is contractable to a human. But yeah, it's been bad.
I know there's a lot of people I've noticed on the internet losing them. This is our Carolina wren. Like I've got lots of personality shots of this guy. 500 millimeter lens, the octagonal bokeh. Okay, this is with a 500 millimeter with an extension tube, and it's not a bird. It has wings though, but I thought this came out super sharp to be, 8 to 10 feet away from him.
Yeah, that's great. That's a robber fly, right?
Robber fly.
Yeah, that's a robber fly. Very, very, very active right now. They don't really bother humans much.
They apparently catch a lot of different other bugs.
They do. They're great for getting rid of mosquitoes, but they scare everybody and everybody kills them, but they don't really bite humans.
They're handsome bugs, really. I mean, they're so ugly, they're handsome, I guess would be the word.
That's what my wife says about me.
Yeah, mine too. Just early morning shot of a white-breasted nuthatch grabbing a nut. This is one that wasn't quite as sharp as I usually would throw these out, but just because of the feel of the morning sun coming up, I thought, you know what? I'm going to keep that one. This is one of my favorites. It's raining on a hummingbird's head.
Look at those water drops. That's fantastic.
That was pretty lucky, and he just sat there for a little bit.
Yeah, that's a female.
Female. Yeah, it doesn't have the throat is strong. I thought this was kind of cool with him all Hummingbird spread eagle, basically, I guess you would say.
Yep. And they got the tail feather spread there too, which slows them down when they're flying.
Is that right?
Look at that, man. Now you're sweet talking me.
So this is a composite. I had taken a bird on top of our pine trees at a distance. So this was a put together, you know, it's three pictures really. It's the bird, the moon, and then I had to add the stars into it also.
Yeah, I noticed that some of the stars were actually on the moon.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably could have done a little better with that. This is just something kind of fun.
I get it, man. I get it.
Yeah, he was molting pretty good there. This one was shot earlier in the year. I'm assuming it's the same bird. It looked close enough that I could make some kind of fun out of it.
Yeah.
Like I said, the photography I do is not necessarily technical. You know, from the birding standpoint, is just it's a hobby.
And that's what our page is about, man.
Yeah, it's just fun. You know, interesting. I love it when a bird does something a little quirky looking. I think that just makes a good picture.
Yeah.
You got a hummingbird up?
We got feeders up, but we have not seen it. We're having a contest at the Nature Preserve now to crown king or queen hummingbird for 2021. Whoever sees the first hummingbird at our feeders.
Cool. My wife was talking about just putting ours back out. So
we got our first one last year on March 29th.
Wow. It's pretty early.
Yeah. And your altitude is probably going to put you about 2 weeks behind that.
I was starting to say, I don't remember us ever getting them quite that early. Early ruby crowned. White.
That's a male.
And white breasted nuthatch. Is that what you're seeing?
Right now we are, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Composite. I had a sunset and if you ever get a chance to go to the Huguenot Memorial Park, south tip of Amelia Island, I've never seen so many birds at one place, I don't believe.
Yeah, that's this time of year too. Like your lake is probably full of unusual species of ducks right now, and this is the best time of year to be at the water for birds.
I should spend more time and get down there, but it's like, you know, I'll do the birds in the morning. Sometimes the texture of these birds' feathers are just interesting to me. With the wind, or I don't know if they preened or what. You see a titmouse?
Yes.
Okay. Hummingbird. You see a juvenile titmouse?
Yep.
I call this God's bird because he's got the halo all around him. Just more hummingbirds. And like I said, most of the stuff that I photograph of small birds is going to be right off my deck.
Yeah.
There's a pelican underside from one of our vacations. I think this was Destin.
Right. All right, man. Cool.
Got a pigeon?
Yep. Rock pigeon.
So different ones. Let me just go through a couple, and we could do this for days, but let me show you a couple things. This is our Japanese maple tree. See the bokeh?
Yeah.
And the color on the titmouse?
I do. Yes, we see that.
Same thing here.
Beautiful.
We had a house finch.
It's coming. It's coming. Hold on. Okay. There it
Got
is.
it.
That's a titmouse that we're seeing. Oh, now we see a house finch. Now we got a house finch.
I'm going a little fast for the. This is the. Got a maple?
We do now, yeah.
Okay. So that's how crimson the colors turn on the maple that's there.
Yeah, we have one of those in our front yard that I love. It's a miniature Japanese maple.
Our lake gets some very cool color with the sunset also. You may know what ducks those are. Can you see the ducks yet?
Not yet. We're waiting.
We have very little internet out here too.
Yeah, it's really, really dragging right now, but we'll wait. I'll tell you when we see it. There it is.
Of course,
I believe those are mallards, but I can't really see it well enough. They're either mallards or wood ducks.
but of course, the ducks are not necessarily the subject matter. It's the collection.
That is a beautiful, beautiful photograph. It looks like it's painted with a brush with left to right strokes, man.
We got a lot of good. I photograph a lot of reflections in our lake.
I've been seeing that on your Facebook page.
This is the winter of 2019. You got a goldfinch yet?
Not yet.
Oh, it's really dragging. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something about that.
Yeah, now we're seeing a goldfinch.
That was during the snow on February 8th of 2020, I guess. Is that when we had a big snow?
Yeah, I think so. And he's already got his spring colors coming and he's standing in the snow. That's not right, man.
Yeah. This guy's playing hide and seek behind a leaf. Tell me when they pop up. I'll
We
try
got
to
it,
get
that one now. Okay. Why don't you choose your best 3 or 4 because it's dragging
Yeah,
so
I know.
much.
I'm going long on this, right? Let's see. Let me just cruise
It's not
down
that you're
through.
going long, Richard. It's just that it's dragging so much now. It's hard to.
So much. Yeah. Let's just see. Let me show you let me just show you what I do with some of these for fun. Tell me when you see it.
We see it.
Okay. Tell me when the next one.
Rise up. It's your happy birthday. And at least you spell it right. You know, I'm proud of that. I mean, you're from Georgia like me, so that's always a big plus. Very good. Those are thoughtful things, man. You know.
Well, it's, everyone on Facebook sees when your birthday comes up or when the anniversary, everybody puts it. I thought, you know what? I'm a photographer. I might as well give them a customized greeting.
That's thoughtful. A lot of people aren't as thoughtful as they used to be. I appreciate that.
Well, it's just fun. It's just something fun.
Hey, looks like my ex-wife.
Yeah, I got one of those too. Actually, I got a couple of those.
Yeah, me too.
This is a view. It's not a bird, but this is one of the views we get across the lake this is shot from our deck.
Goodness, look at that. Wow.
So
yeah, I'm coming up to visit you pretty soon. Here,
anytime, man.
Are you vaccinated?
I am not, but I think I'm just now eligible to start to get it.
Well, once you get dewormed, let me know, man. I'm coming to see you.
All right. Yeah, sure. Certainly. That'd be great.
Red Belly Woodpecker.
Yeah, we got a couple of these guys that come. We got this guy comes up a lot.
We're waiting. Yeah, Pine Warbler.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
I'm just cruising through because I just threw a bunch of them in there. So I don't know. I don't necessarily look at it as one's better than another always. It's just a different one. This little guy's staying with us. I thought he would have headed on.
That's the Junco.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get those down here occasionally. I haven't seen any this year, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Our neighbors tell us that we've got this is a red-shouldered hawk. I'm just going to let that probably be the last one. But our neighbors, and I've seen it once, and I kind of wasn't thinking what it was, but we have a bald eagle on our lake now, supposedly.
I don't doubt that at all. They're very, very common. Not very common. They're much more common up in your neck of the woods than they were.
Yeah,
so I don't doubt that at all. We see them here about once a week. We'll see them flying over the ponds here in Atlanta.
Well, I'm hoping to get out and get a picture of him eventually, but so far what we've got is the hawk. This is at the bottom. This is with 600 millimeters from our deck down to the bottom of our where the lake starts. That's our property line right there.
Cool.
The fence. So
cool.
But yeah, and that's the actual me with the Fresno Lens. So I don't know which one you like better, but
the Wharf one was a lot easier to look at.
It is. It really is. So. But anyway, no, like I said, I got a gazillion photos. I will show you the last one here. I know that's the Junco. but the geese are starting to get very territorial.
Yep.
So
yeah, I think your climate is maybe 2 weeks behind on ours, and because anyway, go ahead. We're waiting on the geese picture still. There it is.
You'll probably get 2 coming in then.
Yeah, man. They are some ferocious critters, and we get them down here mixed with Muscovy ducks that are even meaner. And you'll have gang fights break out at Piedmont Park all the time. You'll have 6 or 8 of them fighting to the death with each other.
Wow,
it's crazy. So I'm going to stop your screen share if that's all right, and then ask you some questions.
Please.
Okay. Number one, thank you for taking an hour and a half out of your day every week so far and watching our show and being part of our program, because people watch this and I get comments on it, and it, little things that people pick up here left and right can make a difference in somebody's enjoyment of the hobby. And I'm really grateful for all of you that come in and check on this. We tried this with the solar astronomy crew, Richard Ozier, and did not have a lot of, I don't know, it just wasn't the same feel, Did you think, Alexander, how did you feel about it when we had the solar imagers from around the world get together?
I think people enjoyed it. People said, had a lot of comments on, solar chat saying they enjoyed it. I think it's just different.
It is. Yeah. And I was explaining to somebody that they're both hobbies. There he is. COVID hair and all.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, the coffee settled in, so I figured I'd be brave enough.
Yeah, I had a distinct Tom Waits feel.
Well, I got jabbed yesterday too, so now I'm starting to think of going and get my hair cut.
No, man, keep going. You can get the Tom Waits thing going and get free restaurant
that's right.
tickets.
Pretty soon. Well, I always thought I was gonna, do the aging hippie thing, and I didn't think this would be the reason.
And but yeah, Alexander, it was fun. It was a different feel. I don't know. Maybe it was me, but Richard, your bird studio is really cool, and I think that Joe is on one of the guys that helps run the nature preserve with me. I think we may be putting that together out there, because I threw a bunch of limbs around the feeders for 2 reasons. One, to keep the parents from going in there with the kids. They were swinging on the bird feeders and breaking them. But every time somebody walks by, if they've got kids or something, they'll grab a couple of the limbs and take them with them and beat on stuff and then just throw them in the woods. So what was a 3.5, 4 foot tall pile of limbs always turns out to be nothing within about a week. So, so I think that's a good idea, man. We may have to do that. Ozier, do you, is it Ozier or Ozer?
Either one.
Either one?
Whatever you feel like.
Okay. Well, I feel like Ozier right now. That may change. Do you do any birding over at your place, man?
I don't personally. I enjoyed tuning into this because I've always wondered how these photos are acquired. And it already, the first 15 minutes kind of blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, there's you have these staged perches and using the flash. And I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea. And I've always had a great interest in photography, but I did not realize the extent to which studio techniques are used for these birding shots.
Well, Richard Clark has a pretty unique way of doing it. So I wouldn't say it's the norm. I'd say it's a little more than the norm. And that's why we try to invite different people on here. Do you do like astronomy imaging more?
Yeah, I mostly do astro imaging, but I've got a background in photojournalism and done all kinds of different types of photography throughout my life. Right now, astro imaging has a tendency to suck all the air out of the room.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of what I've been doing. And it's hard for me to break out of that silo right now, which is okay. I'm not getting out a lot these days.
Right. There's not a lot to do. Hey,
do you have any? I can only take so many photos of my cats.
Do you have any drunk booty shots of Debbie Harry by any chance? Okay, we're moving on. Hey, Joe, what's happening over there, man? Did you have any questions for Richard?
I do have some questions for Richard, and Richard, I really appreciate you coming on. I learned a lot. I really learned a lot from your talk, and being on the Sunlit Earth page. I enjoy everyone's photos, But yours have always stood out. You know, I think you have a really distinct style, and that's apparent to a novice, you know, someone who's not a photographer like myself. And it was just great to learn how you do it. And especially, I feel like I'm a big fan of the silhouette shots. I really like what you're doing with those and what you're talking about telling a story. And I get that. I feel like it resonates from a viewer's perspective a lot, right? It's a great way to say something about your subject to, you know, the less is more kind of principle in a certain way with the silhouette shots.
Well, it's, as a photographer, you're always trying to tell a story or convey a personality. You always want to tell something about your subject. And I try to, whether I'm photographing, you know, when you're photographing kids in a day, it's more that you're capturing the age of the kid and the expression. But when you're doing, as the gentleman's, the other Richard was talking about doing photojournalism, you're literally wanting your photo to tell the story about that picture. Like the silly bird that's behind me is a pine siskin, and it's just funny how they do these strange head tips. It's just comical. So to me, that I like that kind of thing where it's more than just a bird sitting there static. It's actually interacting almost with you. So
yeah, thanks. And I appreciate getting walked through that. And then as far as like a question, kind of comment, interested in your thoughts. So you're in Cleveland, right? Are you from Cleveland?
I'm from southern Hall County, in a little area called Chestnut Mountain, south of Gainesville.
Okay. Well, you know, I'm from Dawson County, born and raised. Well, technically I was born in Dahlonega, but I was, you know, brought home to my house in Dawsonville. And, you know, I think that's a big, so I have the North Georgia mountains and the Chattahoochee National Forest definitely have a special place of meaning for me personally. And growing up in Dawson County, I think it was really hard being someone who really appreciates nature, you know, to see how the area is being developed. And I know you've probably seen a lot of that too. And I think a pain point for me is watching how rapidly the area is developing, you know, in ways that are kind of inconsistent with nature existing. And so, you know, kind of one of my life goals is really to find a way to help find the area find more sustainable ways of growth. You know, it's like, obviously we're going to have more humans, but there's got to be better ways than surgically removing the biological world and rolling out some subdivisions. And, you know, the way that that's happening in Dawsonville is, you know, it's hard for me to watch. I hope to find a way to get involved in a productive way. But I just wanted to hear what your take is on that in Cleveland, because I know it's happening there too. And something about, you know, I'm a board member at Clyde Shepherd with Stephen, and I also have started a nonprofit, Applied Community Ecology. And I think the theme is really looking for ways for people, helping people find ways to bring nature back into their lives. Like, how can we do our human things, but may bring nature in to enrich ourselves? And so, like, the idea of a bird studio on your patio, you know, that's a way that you're bringing nature back to you in a certain way. I don't know, that's kind of a mouthful, but and a bunch of different ideas kind of cobbled together there. But what's your thoughts about the trajectory of the Cleveland area? Yeah,
I'll tell you, I kind of have a theory. And by the way, if you went to Dawson County High School in the last 2 or 3 decades, I probably made your school pictures.
You may have.
I'm sure I probably did, now that you're telling me that. But
we're going to need to see that. Just letting you know.
But
we're going to need to see that.
I'll tell you, I believe when the growth in Dawson County really started was when there became a 400. When you get a 4-lane in a community, that's when the growth hits. We haven't gotten one yet, but there's a planning to be able to extend 400 over through Cleveland. And I fully expect us to end up looking a lot like the 400 corridor at Dawsonville in probably 10, 15 years, if that happens, if we get the 4 lane.
And Alexander, that's a major roadway that's called 400. It's a 4-lane roadway. He's talking about it expanding north into the country.
And just for context, since you mentioned 400, I mean, just for context, like when I was born, I grew up on some property in the woods. There was literally a gas station and a Waffle House. That was it. Like my mom would go, you know, to Cumming or Dahlonega to get groceries. You know, now there's a mall, there's 2 Taco Bells, you know, there's the whole suburban development model, and it's the worst traffic spot ever.
Yes.
And again, it happened in a way that was so incompatible with the nature that was there. I mean, it's literally surgically removing the whole biological world there. And, you know, it would be great if when Cleveland has to grow, there could be a different way that could happen. I think your prediction has a high odds of happening, but wouldn't it be nice if there was ways to guide that development to be a little more sustainable?
Unfortunately, most development is guided by the dollar. It's, you know, money is what guides everything in our world. So it's, I mean, what do you do?
All right, I'm pulling the plug on this because we don't go into politics on this show.
Okay.
And
all right,
that is all interesting topics, but we're going to move away from all that. We're talking about sunlight. And Joe, did you have anything else you wanted to ask Richard? Not to give you the hook or anything or play the music, but
no, that's fine. That's fine.
We're going to stick with sunlight and nature.
I'm trying to look for ways to keep our appreciation of sunlight around. I'll tie it back into that. But thanks, Richard. It was a great presentation.
Thank you.
And Alexander, and you know, I don't care what anybody's political views. It ain't nothing like that. It's just we got to focus, man. Keep it on the topic. Alexander.
I'm just so sorry I've missed it. I'm going to put it on playback.
Well, how's the hubby doing?
I wish Stephen had put a little thingy saying, sorry, you know, like it's time, but we've gone forward an hour.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. You know, I didn't think about that. So they don't change daylight savings for British Standard Time or something?
We do go into British summertime, but it's next Sunday. So I'm guessing that next Saturday it'll be at 6 o'clock. It'll be an hour earlier still.
You want me to change the show to match the time so you won't miss it next Sunday?
No.
Because you know, it's all about you, and you're our star.
No, because only in 2 weeks' time, then it'll be back to the same time again, won't it?
Yeah. So it's messed up. So I'm gonna have to get you on again though, because your show about your vacation, those birds was incredible. But so I think that's a wrap, Richard. Unless you had anything else, you're inviting everyone there for a free stay. I understand.
Sure, so come on up.
Mother-in-law cottage and a free yearbook style photo for anyone who comes.
Exactly.
Am I right?
Yeah.
I was just wondering whether, you know how you had that beautiful picture of that osprey with the happy birthday on?
Mm.
I was wondering if I could have it because it's my husband's birthday in a few weeks.
Oh.
And are we from?
I've got to speak quietly though.
How can I get that to her?
She's on the Facebook Sunlit Earth group, and you can send her a private message after you friend each other.
I'll send you. I'll be glad to send you the file.
Because it was so beautiful.
Yeah,
you know,
certainly
the one with, you know, the second one that you showed where it was the beautiful sunlight behind.
With the orange kind of blue and orange.
Yeah. It was really,
I've got it.
really
Yeah.
lovely.
Well,
I'll send that to you.
Let me tell you how what a compliment that is when you have the world's best, well-known and greatest solar astro imager asking you to send her one of your photos.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's a big deal.
Well, like I said, I hope it was informative. You feel free to message me if you have any other questions about anything.
Thank you for being on, man, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate you wearing the Vulcan ears. I'm sorry that everybody missed that except for me. But we're going to call that a wrap. And I want to say a special thank you to Joe and Richard and Alexandra and Richard the sequel and everyone else who checked in for spending time with us this week. Tom Waits, thank you. And we're gonna need pictorial evidence of Joe Sexton's high school days. Also, Richard, on Sunlit Earth. And
Okay.
we will have a show next Saturday. I'm not exactly sure who's going to be on it yet, but I can guarantee you it'll be interesting. And thank you for visiting this week in birding and nature photography on Sunlit Earth. And adios, everybody.
Thanks for
Very good.
doing it.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.